Tiny Tina's Wonderland was the latest installment to the Borderlands games and franchise, spin-off of Borderlands based around Tiny Tina's story, like she did Tiny Tina's Assault and Dragon's Keep, which is one of the best DLCs on Borderlands 2, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions. This game came out a little over 2 years ago now, so it's been out for a bit now, and I figured with the release of the Borderlands movie coming out very soon, and the constant leaks of Borderlands 4 eventually coming out, I think this is best time as any to come check out the last installment of the Borderlands series, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I did a video on this a while ago, giving and explained in 10 minutes what I thought about it. And that was kind of a first play review on it was my first time actually checking it out. I kind of just recently started playing the game again, just randomly came across it and figured I'd start playing it again, and I've beat the story in the last couple days. Which I never really got into when I first started playing it. I wasn't interested. But I kind of took another chance at it. And in this video, I will kind of explain what I've enjoyed and how I felt about this game. So, let's get into it. Alright, so as we're in the game now, it appears my textures are being a little weird and kind of disappearing, but Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, as I've kind of replayed it recently, I have come to realize that this game is actually a pretty solid Borderlands game. It's exactly what you expect out of a Borderlands game, which is kind of weird. I'm like surprised at the amount of enjoyment I've gotten out of it in the last little bit. Is I kind of just grinded the game and beat it, just kind of out of nowhere. It wasn't part of the plan at all. But like the actual genuine experience of the game has been quite good. Do I think it beats my favorite Borderlands 2? No, not at all. But I think it's on par with the last game, Borderlands 3. I do think it's on par. I think Borderlands 3 was a good game. I think a lot of people have a lot of hate for it, which is fair hate. One of the main reasons that I hear is the story was kind of, well, shit. And I agree. I think the Borderlands 3 story was shit. Considering I was able to play the Borderlands 2 story over and over again and enjoy it. But I can't stand doing more than one run on the Borderlands 3 story. That does say something. So that's just something, that's a whole different video on Borderlands 3. But this story I actually didn't hate. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. But it's also, because of the fact that it's a shorter game, it's not the size of a full game, it's actually kind of refreshing, I guess you could say. Because you still get that Borderlands experience, but it's not too much. It's not like you overdo yourself. You can beat the whole game pretty quickly, actually. And it's very fun. And not to mention, I think its endgame is quite entertaining. Not just because it doesn't have as extensive as a list of farmable bosses and things to go do like Borderlands 3 or Borderlands 2, but as the base game goes, without including any DLC, you have a really cool feature called Chaos Trials, which I think is, in my opinion, my favorite out of OP levels, Mayhem levels, and stuff like that. I think the Chaos levels is more fun, and as you can see on this character, I've kind of started getting into it down at the bottom here, but I want to show off some of those as well as show off what the map is like. So if you have never played Tiny Tina's Wonderland and you're looking for a Borderlands game, it is usually on sale. I think it might be on sale right now on PlayStation. The loot system works about the same as it has in the past. If you've never played a Borderlands game, I don't recommend starting on this one. Probably start on one of the originals, but similar loot system, you got your slots here, except you have a new addition of a melee weapon. Before, you could always hit in the Borderlands game, there was always a melee option, but now you actually have a melee weapon, which also has loot. Which is quite cool, and it works quite well. It's nice to do. And then you got your normal inventory space, where you got all your guns, and you can favorite and trash items that you want to keep or throw out, along with, I didn't even know I had that, that's a new gun, but And then you have your gear, which usually would consist of your shield, your class mod, a relic, things like that in other Borderlands games. But everything in this is based medieval, because minus the fact that there's guns, but that's the whole Tiny Tina's thing. She's crazy. But it's based more medieval. Medieval fantasy RPG type look to everything, along with your money, and then you have your other currencies, like the one used for enchantments down here, and then you have your skill tree, which is about the same idea as all the other skill trees. You get your main action skills, and then you can kind of go through those and choose which one, and then you have your skill points. Now, it almost seems like, because the only difference between this, I'd say, this game and the other ones is you get set characters in the other ones. Like Borderlands 3, you had the Operative, which was Zane, and then you had the Siren, which was Amara. Borderlands 2, there's more, but those are the ones I said. Borderlands 2, you got Gunzerker, Salvador, and then you got Zero, the Assassin, stuff like that. Whereas this game, you don't. You customize your character, which was a brand new thing, and then you have your skill tree, which is designed out of whatever you pick, whatever class type you pick. Stablemancer, Clawbringer, Graveborn, Spellshot, and then there's a couple others, but these you pick one and then you can actually get a second one later in game, which technically you could say they've done before in a way, because like all of the ones in Borderlands 3 you have multiple styles and multiple trees to go through, whereas in this game you only have one tree, but you can choose to have a second class which also comes with its own tree. And you only reach level 40, that's the max level in this game. Well, max normal level, but then there's your myth rank and your chaos level as well. So a lot smaller. You get a still Borderlands experience with your skill points and trying to make your builds and design them how you want, and synergies and all types of stuff with your gear. But then you also have your myth rank, which I love a lot of this character, but it's the same as the badass rank worked in the other games, which was just essentially you get bonus shit. It's like a whole extra tree of leveling, which would go forever. So it's you still have something you're kind of working towards. Something you're always still leveling up, which is a cool thing to have. Then you get your chaos mode, which is very similar to mayhem mode on how this part is, where people get stronger, more loot, the higher you are, the better stuff you're gonna get, the harder it's gonna be, and you can kind of go through your chaos levels, which I believe goes to 100 now, which is kind of crazy. From what I knew before, I'm pretty sure it was only 20, and then it is now 100, I believe. So that's kind of crazy. You can turn it off and on, whatever you want to do here. The appeal is to play it so you can get better stuff. And then your journal, normal thing, like normal. This is where all your quests are, completed quests, side quests, things like that. And then you have your map, which for the most part works the same. You have your air locations, because Borderlands it's a free roam game, kind of. Like, you can free roam and go do all types of stuff and discover things on each location, but you gotta fast travel all these different locations. And if you click the world map, it's kind of like how you could look and go to different planets in Borderlands 3. Um, Here you have the different locations on the map that you can go to. And these are all, and each one of these has a nice map with lots of bonus objectives and things to do. Here's your main hub location, like Sanctuary in the other games. And then you just have all these. Well, but the difference between this game that makes it very different is this whole game, if you also are interested in a Dungeons and Dragons style thing, then that's the other thing about this game. So if you actually have, everything is on a game board, which is different from every other Borderlands game. This game board it's kind of a Dungeons and Dragons type thing, where Tiny Tina is the dungeon master. And you have this little game where you can actually see your character that you customize yourself, and depending on what gear you're wearing, you can see your little character right here. And this game board has side quests you can do that are on this game board, along with collectibles and like these things that you can pick up, along with dungeons, which there's one just over there, and different pathways you can take. And this has its own map as well. This is the game board map. These are all the pathways you can take, and there's collectibles you can find here. which is a really cool thing to have, as long as there's a side quest over here that I haven't done. I've been trying to do all these, so I gotta get that done. But you have to actually do some of these to unlock those locations I was showing you on the world map. Like there's one called Tangle Drift that I had to unlock early in the game. It was the first one I think I unlocked. Like separate location. Oh, actually no, I lied. I think that was a cave mountain goblin type one. And as every Borderlands style game, there's tons of Easter eggs in this game to experience. Like there's one where you actually get to fight Smurfs, and that's a cool little Easter egg thing there. Tons of side bosses, along with full like actual bosses to farm. And this board itself is kind of unique and different, and I find it entertaining actually. You get all these little dungeons you can go do, which are fun. They're basically like it's an encounter, is what you would call it. It's what it's called in the game. And where you can also run into an encounter if you run through tall grass. Something will spawn like this, and you can actually fight that and get into an encounter. I'm not going to right now, so you can smack it and avoid it if you want to, which the game will teach you. But you go through these little encounters, you can go do dungeons that cause the encounters. Obviously there's going to be some repetitiveness, like most of the side quests you do here on the game board require going into one of these dungeons, doing a couple rounds, and earning what the quest giver was looking for, and then going back to them, and then you either unlock a new location, new spot on the map, things like that, or a new way to get to locations on the map, because there's lucky dice that you need to find, which will actually up your loot. Kind of around that basis, it's just a game board that essentially your whole game is based off of. You play on this, which I think is a really cool and unique take on it. I think that variety, that change from the normal games, actually makes it a lot more entertaining. The fact that it's not the same as the other ones. So it's nice to play a Borderlands game and get that Borderlands experience, but it's a little different than normal. So we're going to find a dungeon here to try out, kind of show you what the dungeon's all about. There actually is decent variety on how everything looks, which is kind of nice. And see, there's a dice over there that I was talking about, that lucky dice. I haven't found out how to get to that one just yet, so. But we're gonna drop down here, right into this grassy area. Looking for a dungeon, which there's one right here. So dungeons, like I was saying, you just walk up to them and you enter. Which this whole dungeon thing I actually find quite fun. So this is a combat encounter, so it's exactly what it sounds like. You want to do some combat. So we're gonna switch to this gun right here, which
my conscience is clean.
this is a black hole SMG I got from doing the Chaos trial run, which is probably one of the best ways to actually farm for good gear in the game, late game. These are pretty simple for the most part, pretty similar basis. Just different. You'll come across different maps and different enemy types during these as well. But this is kind of a fun thing to do, because you can just kind of grind these out, and there's always a little bit of variety depending on who you're fighting, and they're fairly randomized for the most part. The dungeons aren't. Dungeons are what they are, but the Chaos Trials are very similar to these, but there's, I'll be showing those. There's a little bit of a difference to those. Same idea though, an encounter. A lot of the board stuff are encounters like this, but they're actually quite fun, and they're not too hard, as you can see. Unless you just do something stupid and almost get yourself killed like I just did, but you can kind of customize, and there's a lot of, like every Borderlands game, you can play how you want to play, which makes them fun and adds a lot of uniqueness to it. So I think this whole combat and counter thing in this game, it actually makes a lot of enjoyment out of it for me. This kind of is one of those things that make or breaks the game, because it's one of the things you do a lot. It's one of the most repetitive parts of the entire game. But I actually enjoy it. I find it nice because it's a steady thing that you're doing. Where the fuck is everyone? It's a steady thing that you're constantly able to do, and it's always there as an option. But it's not a bad thing at all. and obviously it can get repetitive, but that's kind of what the whole point of Borderlands is. It's kind of built around that, to be repetitive, to do the same shit over and over. And if you're playing Borderlands and you don't like that, well then you're not playing the right game, because that's the whole point of the game, is to grind and farm for gear. That is the fun part of the game, and it's kind of made that way. So once you complete your encounter, you usually get a little chest, and you can open that up, and you'll get normally shit stuff out of these, for the most part. These aren't really the best way to get loot, per se, late game, so like, I don't want any of that, and I just leave. Now, most of these you will get a second round, sometimes even a third round, which is essentially supposed to be harder as well. Doesn't mean it's going to be, but it's supposed to be, so. And then you just get shit started with however you want to do, and then you complete your encounter, which normally isn't too bad. I keep forgetting that my new spell I have to hold. Hit you with that. We're working out. Hit him with that. Hit you with that. Oh, hi. Take that. Borderlands is a very chaotic game. It always has been. Every game in the entire series is just chaos. Mayhem, whatever you want to call it. Both reasons why those are actual mode names in the game. This game is meant for just fun and chaos. If you're into games that are just a lot happening, and this might be one of those games that is your style. And like I said, this is smaller than the other games, so it's kind of refreshing. It's not. A lot of games lately are really big and take a long time to get anywhere, and some people don't have that time, per se. But if you want to play a game that's not like Call of Duty, things like that, you want an actual like story type of game, single player game that you can play yourself, or you can play with people, but you want a game like that, I think this is a great option because of it being smaller. You have more time and opportunity to play. I just killed myself. You have more time and opportunity to play said game, which is very nice to have that opportunity as bigger. It's like a more story-based single-player game, to be able to have more time to play it because it is smaller. That's not very common, and I think that kind of gives it its own edge on the other games. Just the fact that it's smaller, it kind of works in its favor. This game probably kind of got disregarded when it got released. It wasn't really big, I feel like it didn't really get much recognition. I think ever since Borderlands 2, really, the recognition for Borderlands has kind of died down. That was like the most recognition I feel like it got last. Now, is this kind of a thing of what to say, what we want from Borderlands 4? Something like this. Obviously, we're gonna want it to be a bigger game, unfortunately, because it's a big game. Like it's kind of hard to make things like that small games. This was meant to be smaller. It's a spin-off. Borderlands 4 is the actual fourth installment to the series, so it has to be bigger. So unfortunately, it isn't going to be a smaller game like this. But there's a lot of new features and different features in Borderlands, this Tiny Tina's Wonderland spin-off, that actually I feel like would go great in the full game. And I think that is something they should look into doing, is taking features from this game, not just not just all their base games, but taking features from this game as well and involving those into the next Borderlands game. Because this game, I feel like, has done everything really well. There's not a lot I have to complain about this game. I can't complain about it being too small, because that's what it was meant to do. Take this, and then we got a new shrine piece, and we can leave. So, most of the game will consist of encounters like that, but I think where this game really shines is its endgame, which is due to, in my opinion, one specific mode called the Chaos Chamber Chaos Trials. So after you beat the game, I'm not going to give many spoilers here, try not to, as much as I can. After you beat the game, you come across this location. There's a guy here, he's the one who gives you your missions. You'll learn who he is through the game, but you have this little location which has all the things in the game that you need. You have your claim your lost loot thing. You have an enchantment thing to re-roll enchantments or re-enroll anointments, as Borderlands 3 had. you have your safe you can put stuff in, and then you have your quick change where you can change your skill tree, play with new builds, customize how your character looks, along with your banner, which you saw those hanging around everywhere, and your statue, which you have all around the main city. But then you have this guy, the Dragon Lord, which you'll know who he is the second you start the game for the most part. And then you have these, which is your Chaos Chamber stuff. So all these different types of runs you can do: boss runs, featured run, chaos trial, extended run, normal one. I'm not going to go into how this works. There's lots of people that explain how. If you wanted to know how, that'd be asking for a whole separate video. But these are just different runs you can do. The one that's actually going to up your chaos level is the chaos trial. The other ones don't, but they're the same idea. So just little differences to them all. So we'll show you a chaos trial. So we'll get this at 5 so I can up mine more, and we'll go accept. So then you get a portal here, which you get to play, and this is almost its own, like, it's its own little game, I guess you could say, inside this game. You have your own little progression system for here, and you do these completely randomized dungeons or encounters that you saw as earlier. You get little side objectives, as you can see here. I have one to destroy that statue right there. And your goal here is to do exactly what we've done before, clear the encounter. But not only are you clearing the encounter, you are trying to collect these little crystal shards things, which you will see right here on the screen. And you want these for using to buff your character during this, to give yourself little bonuses to make these encounters go by easier, because they will get harder as they go on. And there's a boss at the end, which these are the things you can use to buff them, right there. Now, you could choose to not spend any of them and just save them up, and at the end of the trial, you have a loot room where you can use them to get some of the best loot in the game, and the location, in my opinion, is actually the best way to get loot in this game. So, you could choose to save up. Unless you're not max level, then you could just choose to try to grind through these so you can get to max level. I haven't even destroyed this yet. You don't need to do the side things, but doing these will give you bonus gems, or what they're called. I keep forgetting what they're called, but so just do these multiple dungeons. You can do the side quests they give. I'm gonna kill myself here. Or you can just choose to grind through them. You don't need to do the side quests. It's fully optional, obviously, as well as purchasing these little bonuses here. And you just kind of run through these. I'm trying to just do this one a little faster if I can, but
I cast no more.
it is getting intense here. Uh-oh. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Oh, we got it. Oh, we got it. Whew, okay, that was close. Alright. So, after you complete a round, you get not just this guy, it depends on the dungeon. I'll show you an example here. And then you usually get your gems you can unlock. You normally will get 1 unless you do a side objective, and then you get 2. Smash these open, collect your little gems, which you can use, like I said, for the loot room at the end, or you can use during to get bonuses to make things easier. And then if you get this guy, because there's different types of dungeons they're all randomized encounters, but every one you get something at the end. You could get the Dragon Lord, which gives you bonuses. You could get something that gives you extra gems. You could get some that gives you a more buff. You could get something that gives you loot, and it's all kind of random what your portal options are going to be. So I'm going to go with this. But yeah, this is what I mean. You get these little bonuses, like more gems or more loot, and you kind of get to choose on which path you're going to take. And I'm going to choose to take this because I'm trying to get more better loot. But I find this whole feature really cool. How it's its own little game mode. You get to run these dungeons, and how they're completely randomized is nice. Once you do enough of them, it's not going to feel as randomized. But it's nice to have this little endgame thing, because this feels like something that has very good replay value to it. I feel like I can play this over and over and not get sick of it right away, or not take as long to get sick of it. Which is, Jesus Christ, which is a very nice feature to have. I'm literally gonna die right now. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Come here. Oh, and he left. I'm really gonna die here in this dungeon right now. I'm gonna die. Oh my god, wow, that was crazy save. Jesus Christ, I was at a sliver. Oh my god. What the fuck? Okay. Well, I guess I didn't die. So we're gonna run through here. I'm gonna kinda speed through these little dungeons right here so that I can show you off the loot room at the end and kinda conclude this video on my thoughts on the game. So enjoy this sped up gameplay. Let's get through this. So here we are finally at the end of that trial. I can't even lie, that was one of the trials that I have never struggled that bad in trial in quite a while. That was rough. I almost died there so many times. You got 5 lives as you can see right here, but I almost died so many times. So many close calls on that one. Like this one right here. I'm gonna die. Oh my god, wow, that was crazy save. And then I also happened to... I got pretty solid amount of points, 1,244 gems that round. That's not horrible, it's not amazing. Obviously the higher level you get in chaos levels, the more you're gonna get by the end, and the more side missions you do successfully and things like that, you can up that amount or lower that amount depending on how you do. It definitely wasn't horrible, but that wasn't... well, it was horrible. I don't usually die that much during it. And I don't have by any means an optimized build of any sort or amazing guns, so that's kind of why you're doing this. This character doesn't have anything that great. So after you... oh, look at that. But after you do that, you get how long it took you. Jesus, it took me quite a bit. Yeah, you get how long it took you, you get your level, you get how much points you got and all that. And then you make it to this room, which is the loot room. It is the final room of this entire thing. So you get in here, and at the very end, you got this nice little chest you can open up, which you could get a legendary out of, or you could get unlucky and not get a legendary. Now, in this game and all the Borderlands, there is some good purples you can get, so you could get something cool out of here that you've been looking for. Like the arc torrents aren't horrible. I'm gonna grab that. That looks not too bad. But then you get to pick with your points on if you want to grab multiple things or just one. So it's essentially, depending on how much gems you got, you can kind of choose if you want to dump all of them. You have, it says 2,000 maximum here you can dump. So you can choose how much you want to dump into one of these for what they have, what they offer, like ARs, rocket launchers, snipers, you know, all the above, all the in the game. So you pick what you want, or you can dump, like spread it out, put gems in multiple. But the more gems you spend on something, the higher chance of getting a better weapon. Whatever, like the equivalent of gems you spend is going to be what loot you get. You get the loot equivalent to the amount of gems you spend. That's how I wanted to word that. So we're gonna pick pistol because I want to do pistol because the one I'm currently rocking that I was struggling is like in the early 20s and I'm currently pushing 35. So let's try to get a better pistol. We're gonna dump all 1,300 into this in hopes we get a good pistol. And I didn't even get a legendary. After all of that, I didn't even get a fucking legendary. So this can obviously be unrewarding. It is very luck-based as well, depending on how much you play it. Are any of these even remotely good? I don't want that. I don't know, we'll try it just because I feel sad for not grabbing anything. We'll try that. So, you could get something that you don't like at all, which is pretty shitty that I didn't get a single legendary out of that run. But it is what it is. So, after you do a loot room, you are done your round of Chaos Chamber. Hopefully you don't get as screwed over as I did and not get loot, but that's the whole point. You grind this out, play this multiple times, you get all different events, you get a different boss at the end. Luckily the one I got wasn't too hard. And then you get to see what you got and everything and do it all again. But this right here, this Chaos Trial, Chaos Chamber area, I think is one of the best features in a Borderlands game to date. I feel like this is the most replayability, and having endgame replayability is such a hard thing to do in games, like an actual good replayability feature. And I think these Chaos Trials are one of those things. And I haven't even really played this with people, other people yet. I feel like it could be even more fun playing it with people. So, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, is it the best Borderlands game of them all? No, I don't. Will always say Borderlands 2 is the best. But it is not a bad game by far. I honestly don't know where I would rank the Borderlands games other than Borderlands 2 being at the top. I think they all have their good things. But I think this is a lot of features that we should look into and we should keep for Borderlands 4. And I don't think Tiny Tina's Wonderland should be disregarded. So 2 years later, is this a good game? I'd say it is. Me personally, if I was to give this a 10 out of 10 ranking, I'd give this like an 8.5 out of 10. I can't really complain too much about it, but I can't really, other than the Chaos Chamber, which is really what puts it to about 8.5, I don't really have a reason to bring it up much higher, but I don't have a reason to drop it. So I would recommend you go check out this game, especially if you're looking for that Borderlands experience, but you want something a little smaller. Tiny Tina's Wonderland is the perfect option. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for checking out Tiny Tina's Wonderland 2 years later. We'll see you on the next video.